EJ, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast tonight. It's an honor to have you here.
Good evening to you. Thanks for having me, Josh. I appreciate it. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, you and I have actually been following each other on Instagram for quite some time, but we actually haven't really talked very much since we connected on there. But I guess, here we are. Better late than never, I suppose.
Yeah, well, Josh, we're busy guys. Things get that way. I love doing podcasts. When you reached out, I was like, heck yeah, let's get this done. It's probably a long time coming, but I believe in God's time. Everything happens when it's supposed to. So,
Agreed. Absolutely. So, there's a lot that we could talk about, but unfortunately, we only have an hour to do it, and we'll see what we can get to in this episode. But one thing I like to always do with my guests is I just like to go back to the beginning because every great story has a beginning. So that's where I'd like to start with you as well.
yeah.
And so you're a survivalist, you're an outdoorsman, you're a soldier. But I want to focus on the soldier aspect first. So can you kind of take us back a little bit here and kind of fill us in as to what set you down that path to join the Army?
I was let's see, in my teens. My parents divorced when I was very young, and didn't have a lot of money coming in. I didn't see in those days in the 80s, early 80s. I graduated in 1984. We didn't have computers. We didn't have if a guidance counselor didn't take you around his arm, there was no path for college for me. I was an athlete, but I went to 3 different high schools, so my athletic scholarships were all over the map. Nobody could find me. I moved from one New Jersey county to another, then came back to the same county. I got there late, so I couldn't get back into the sports I loved the most. So, it was very tough for me. I grew up in North Jersey outside New York City. My dad, when he got us, would take us out on the weekends. And that's where I got a love for the outdoors, hunting and fishing and camping and hiking. And he's responsible for my very earliest push into survival. And I remember in 10th grade, the naval recruiter called me up to go to NROTC, Naval ROTC, and I had no idea what that was. It was like, at that time, I'm a punk rock kid with a mohawk going, what? You want me to go in the Navy? Are you nuts? Had no idea. I could have got free college, could have went in the Navy, did whatever the Navy had. And as I went through life in my high school years, I worked a lot of times, played the sports I could between work, but I just didn't have any options. And I was banging nails with my dad. My mom was like, what are you going to do with your life when you grow up? And I just remember in 84 is when the very first Blood movie came out with Johnny Rambo. And I was like, look at this guy. I know this ain't a real person, but somebody out there is got to be like this guy. And if not, I want to be this guy. And so being a Sagittarian male, adventure was in my blood. And I'm like, I went. My mom got pissed off, and she was like, "Well, what are you going to do with your life?" I'm like, "Look, I'm banging nails with Dad. That's what I like doing. I'm thinking about going to L.A. to be an actor and a stuntman. I think that would be a lot of fun. I could do that." She's like, "You'll starve. It won't allow it." I'm like, "But you're my mom. That's my dream. You can't not support me." And her and my stepdad went off to the lake house, and I was up that night drinking some beer, watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show at home, and the recruiter called me up. And he's like, when are you going to come down here and check out these videos? I'm like, as a matter of fact, first thing tomorrow morning, pick me up 8 o'clock, bring black coffee and a bagel. Let's go see these videos. And so that whole Johnny Rambo thing, being mad at, being upset with my mom at the time, he showed me those videos and he's like, man, you scored so high on the ASVAB, you can have whatever you want. You could be this computer guy, work on these Pershing missiles. You could do all this stuff. Go to military intelligence. I'm like, what are you talking about? Nobody goes in the Army to do any of that stuff. I want to be a soldier. I want to be that Johnny Rambo for real. So show me those videos of those guys jumping out of the planes again. And he showed me the Airborne, showed me the infantry video. They had their whole stitch that they did. And then he showed me the Rangers and the Special Forces. I was like, sign me up. And I signed up that day. Like, hey, let's go. Got in the delayed entry program, and on my 19th birthday, December 3rd, 1984, off I went to boot camp. And Really went in there to get money for college. They had at that time, it was like $2 for $1 that you put in situation. They didn't have the GI Bill, but I was like, that's better. That's 12 grand. I can go to community college and pay for the whole thing. And I only planned on going for 4 years and figure out what I want to be when I grow up. Next thing I know, there's Gangland Ranger School in front of me. I'm going to Jump Master School, Pathfinder. And they're like, you want to re-enlist? I'm like, yeah, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Let's go. The next thing I know, 25 years later, I finally retire. So I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still here about to be 60 this year, and I'm still out there swinging and slinging. So the military was great in this aspect, and I tell people all the time, it helped me mature. If I would have went to college, I would have wasted my money. So the military is a great place for young men and women to grow up, get some maturity, get some experience, and I highly recommend it. You do that, you'll have a love for this country. You'll always have the ability to help be a reserve militia in our country, that if the bad guys come, you'll understand how to pick up a gun and take care of business. And it just, I really honed my leadership skills, and all this other schools I went to gave me some great life experiences. I went to 2 different wars. There's a lot of learning through that process. Thankfully, I came back with all my digits, and God bless all of those that went without before they made the ultimate sacrifice. They're not forgotten, and I'm lucky. Everyone says, "Oh, did you earn a Purple Heart? Did you get?" Listen, I don't want none of them damn things. You can keep all that stuff, because when you got to earn them things, you're losing something. And God bless those that did. But I was a good warrior. I was highly decorated for my part, and I did what I was supposed to. So I did 25 years, retired as a sergeant major. Very proud of my service. And when I got out, it was a little confusing for a while, even for a guy that's an E9. And I went into the Sears School to work, got a contract job, which was great because I was around people that were like-minded, helped me transition out, because, I don't think I was ready to get out, honestly. I thought I was, but man, it's a whole different world when you hang up your dog tags and your boots and you get out to the civilian sector. But it's all about mindset and staying positive. It was a rough first 2 years, even though I had a job and I just felt like I didn't belong anywhere. So that's when I went back to survival. I was teaching it at the Sears School, but I started teaching it privately and really getting out in the woods, honing my own skills. I started doing videos for YouTube, and that really helped heal me. The woods healed me. Any PTSDs that I really didn't want to admit I had, the woods is where it was my church, and that's what healed me.
And would you recommend the wild to other veterans who might be in a similar boat, especially, again, getting that community aspect going? Because, in the while they're on active duty, there's a couple of things. They have an apparent mission. They know what's expected of them. They have structure, and they also have a tribe and a brotherhood and everything like that. So
that's very important. You said that, Josh. We did a study, one of my friends, Greg Baker, Ranger Baker, and he started with guys that we went to war with. And he had a lot of psychiatrists come in, psychologists, professors, talk to other people in the mental health business, and then we talked to veterans. In 2-year study, what we learned was most folks that join the military, a majority of them come from broken homes, no apparent means to do anything else like me, orphans, a one-parent family. And when they get to the military, that's the first real family they know. And when they get out, whether it's ETS, you get kicked out, chaptered, retire, whatever, they mourn. They've lost their family. Even if they got a wife and kids or a husband and kids, we found out that they've left something that was their whole fiber. So we've been trying to put a lot of veterans that are in struggling and in need in those kind of places, like you said, brotherhoods, situations that they recall that same feeling of belonging. And we found there's a lot of groups out there putting on like hunting for veterans, fishing trips for veterans, get out to the wild, learn outdoor skills, or just get outside and go hiking or skiing. that nature heals them. We even have veterans they call walk off the war, and they're actually going out and through hiking the Appalachian Trail. So those tools are out there, and you're right. When we leave the military, even I experienced it. I felt lost, but I did have, thankfully, a tribe in the SEER department with like-minded thinkers that really helped me get through that process. And SEER was great because I got out right before I got out. I started acting, doing stunt work, so I was in the SEER department in the camp Slappy. So I got to still be a thespian and still do the role-playing acting stuff. But I was also teaching survival, which was something else that was important to me.
So, like, how long was it following your retirement from the RV before you kind of started getting into the TV spot? Because ultimately you did make it onto Naked and Afraid, and you've did a
Right.
few seasons of that, Dual Survival, and you were also like on Lost too, right? If I recall.
Yep, that's where it all started. I was stationed in Hawaii, my last duty station. Did like 8 years there. Excuse me. And what was going on with me at that time was my unit deployed, and I couldn't deploy because I had a lot of problems with my back. They weren't going to clear me. They're like, "You're Sergeant Major. You're one pothole from being a cripple. You want to walk across the retirement stage, or you want to be in a wheelchair?" And I was like, "I prefer to walk, sir. Thank you." So they wouldn't clear me to deploy. And that gutted me. Whether other people around me thought that's what's going, it gutted me not to be able to be with my troops and my peers. So I was having difficulty dealing with that. And then someone went to a therapist, and he suggested, he said, "Have you ever thought about taking acting classes or something? You can go there and act out some of this stuff and work through it." I was like, "Well, I've always loved acting. I've always been very thespian-like." And that's when I started doing that. And I met some people in the school, and they started getting me into commercials and other things. And then I met a guy at a film shoot. He said, "Man, I'm going to send you to this Margaret Dovesol. She's the casting director for Lost. You would be great for it." And while I was there, I ran a friend of mine that was the stunt coordinator for Lost. So I signed on to start doing stunt work in my spare time on weekends. And then I would take pass or leave to go for other shoots. And then I wound up starting out as a Marshal season 3. I was one of the U.S. Marshals. Anytime the Marshal was chasing Kate, because I was a big bodybuilder back then, I was right next to him. I had that look. Kick the door in, he'll come in, handcuff her. I'm the guy breaking everything, and he's getting all the glory. And then I was doing some tech advising with them about these freighter boat mercenaries. And they gave me 4 lifeguards that didn't know which way to hold a rifle. And it was very difficult. And I told the director, I'm like, "Look, I know you're trying to close the season out with this scene, but these 4 people have no clue what they're doing." "Well, then you put a ghillie suit on. You lead these snipers." I'm like, snipers are just 2 people, not 4. That's like an ambush. And if you add me, that's 5. That's definitely an ambush. "Well, then you go ambush them, but you put this ghillie suit on," and gave me the character Redfern, and that was it. And so when I left Hawaii, I left a lot of the acting stuff I was doing. I came to North Carolina. I kept trying to keep doing it. It was a lot tougher in North Carolina because Hawaii, there's a lot of stuff comes there. So it was a little easier.
Right.
North Carolina, Bev Perdue, one of the governors, she closed down the film commission.
Really?
And North Carolina used to be the 3rd most filmed in state. A lot of people don't know that. And when she shut that commission down, we weren't getting any jobs over here. But I was a big fan of Survivor. I had applied for Survivor probably 15 times. And I was a finalist the very first time I tried, but they didn't pick me up. They switched the season up. So I was out. And then all of a sudden in 2010, I got a call from Survivor. "Hey, we want you to come here, try out." And I went, I made the cast, was getting ready to go on season 21. And then wouldn't you know it, a super fan named Jimmy Johnson, that's right, the football coach from Dallas Cowboys, and Fox News analyst, cleared his medicals after 2 years, which really credits Survivor for saving his life. Really found out he had a heart problem, changed his diet, exercise. Well, they put him in place of me. And I'm like, I'm a Giants fan. How could you do this to me? And so I was out. but they started passing my name around to all these other reality shows, and I started doing a lot of different shows. Can You Survive a Horror Movie? Patton 360 on the History Channel, and a few others. And then I did a show called 72 Hours. Or before that, actually, I got called from Discovery to try out for Dual Survival when they were replacing Dave Canterbury, one of the first hosts. Well, they had to try out 5 people. They had 5, but one guy, he bailed out on them for some reason, and they were looking for a military type guy. And they gave up my name, and then they said, hey, can you be here tomorrow to try out? I'm like, yeah. You put me on a plane, I'll be there tomorrow. I don't even give me a red eye. I don't need any sleep. I'll be there. And I tried out. They wound up picking up Joe Tedeye over me, but they said, hey, we have got you. We want to save you. You're one of the most experienced and skilled survivalists we've seen in a long time. We've got a new show we're working on. It's going to be a few months, but we'd like to come back to you about it. Never told me anything about it. I did a show called 72 Hours on TNT, which was an adventure survival race. You meet your partners on the starting line, and I wound up with 2 couch potatoes. Should have never left the damn living room. And for 3 days, we're running around Fiji with a GPS, going to different waypoints, picking up supplies as we go, trying to find a briefcase for $100,000. Well, I never found the money. I just had a lot of problems with one of my partners. That's another story. But when I was sitting in my hotel, they called me up, started telling me about this extreme survival show they're going to do. And every couple weeks, they're giving me this talk. And as I go, every 2 weeks, they're taking away something else from me for survival. Till the next thing I know, I'm down to my underwear and like a couple items. I'm like, hey, pretty soon I'm going to be buck naked here. You guys keep taking everything away. What's going on here? And they're like, well, we love you. We want to fly you out to LA. We're going to put you with a few different ladies. We're going to try and figure out who we're going to send you out with, but we want you to film the pilot for this new show. So I get the contract. They're calling the show Naked and Afraid. I'm like, they can't be serious about this. Well, I'm in Tanzania. Got there early. Nobody knew what they were doing. So we're actually filming the entry point the day before we're going to actually get inserted. So in case there's problems, they want to make sure they got plenty of video because they don't know what they're doing. So I get down on the Land Rover. We're filming going in. I'm seeing all these animals. I'm talking. I get out of the vehicle, like, all right, take your clothes off. I'm like, shit, you guys are serious. Really? Yeah, take your clothes off. Throw my clothes in there. I'm thinking, oh my God, what is my buddies in the military going to think? What's my job going to think? I'm still working for the government. And I take my shoes. I'm like, what's my mom going to think? And then the car goes off. There goes my clothes. I'm out there naked as a jaybird in a cloud of dust. And they go, cut. All right, back it up. Do it again. So 6, 7 times later, finally I'm naked. And I start marching towards my partner, but then they don't let me meet her. And then the next day, we picked it up from that point there. And then off we went. And it was 21 days of, trying to make a show that nobody, and I'm like, what is this Naked Afraid? This is a terrible idea. The title sucks. It's not even clever. Why don't you call it Bear Survival? We're going to be bear and it's survival. That's a better title. Naked Afraid. Everyone's going to think we're doing a porno here. And they're like, oh, it's just a placeholder. Don't worry about it. What do I know? It's a hit TV series, right? So we did it together as a crew, the 2 of us, me and Kelly. And the proudest thing I am about that whole series, after doing 6 challenges, 206 days, is that me and Kelly got it right. And so many other people got to come and get in there as survivalists like she and I did and have a great adventure. And we've been employing tons of producers, cameramen, and producers and audio people for 17, 18 seasons now, something like that.
Well, this is a really interesting concept for a show because, like, if you're naked in public, you're embarrassed. If you're naked out in the wild, you have no protection. And then so it's just basically like you and Kelly are like Adam and Eve cast out of the Garden of Eden, having to start all over again.
And that's how they kind of shaped it. And you're right. And it is, people say, well, why naked? Well, clothing is a layer of shelter that you're taking away from me, a physical layer. It's also, like you just said, a psychological layer that exposes you to the world. And so now you feel very bare, very vulnerable, both physically and mentally. And I didn't have a problem being naked myself, but we had bigger problems like water and fire.
So, undertaking this challenge, I'm always curious to ask this question to people who just take on these types of challenges, whether it's like in a survival setting like you did, or doing a long through hike, or even like these crazy obstacle course races too. Now, at the end of it, you may just get like a medal or something like that. There's no
Right.
like 100 grand at the top of Mount Everest or anything like that. There's glory, and then there's, I guess, a good sense of pride. And there's probably other things that motivate people to do these things. But what is it that pushes you to really just want to take on like these hard challenges in the way you have been?
Yeah. For me, it's finding that breaking point, which I haven't done yet. It's how far can I take it to the edge of that cliff before I fall off or I fly or figure out some other way to do it. I every time I go out when I take on this challenge, for me, it's a mental test for myself. It helps me. What I didn't see out of this whole thing is I evolve as a man. I become a better man, a better survivalist. The thing I didn't see was how I inspire others to change their life in some way. And I've heard all kinds of things. Fighting addictions of some sort, whether it's a substance or or gambling, relationship issues, job issues, getting through college, just having a reset in life, finding the courage to just step forward and go find out who you really are. Because this thing hones you. When you go out on a challenge like Naked Afraid, it is very real, and you're in the fire. And fire, in a lot of ways, whether it's physical or like psychologically, it makes you better. It hardens you. I get so much out of going on these challenges. I'm excited because every time I go out, I get something different out of it every time. And there's things I learn about myself I didn't know were there. And it just toughens you up mentally. And you just know that you can take it no matter what's thrown at you. I get closer to God out there. That's where I hear his voice loudest. And I believe you get put in places where God wants you to witness people that don't know they need witnessing to. And you do it in a non-in-your-face religious way. I'm very spiritual, and and if it wasn't for my very high level of spirituality and faith in God, I don't know that I could get through some of these things. I pray to him. I give him the glory. I'm just the messenger. I don't take any of the credit, and I'm okay openly saying that. Doesn't bother me one bit. I always fall short and try to be a better man the next day than I was the day before. Try to help out my fellow man and be kind to them. And even though people piss me off, I always figure out a way eventually, even though I curse at them and yell at them and shake my fist, that I say, God bless you for the day. Please, I hope you find your way. So for me, that's what I did. It also shows people that when you survive with EJ, that the things I'm teaching you really work. And I got humbled out there. My primitive skills, although I had them, I always thought, hey, I ain't going to use this shit. You're dumb if you're going out thinking you're going to rub two sticks together and make fire. Keep a lighter in one pocket and put a second one in the other and keep a magnesium fire starter in your back pocket. I was a gear guy. I'm thinking if the world flips, I'm going to turn trash into treasure. I don't need this primitive stuff. It's nice to know. It's magical. Oh boy, was I humbled out there, Oh shit, my partner's out here. She's supposed to be the primitive fire maker, and she's tried 2 bow drill fires, and now she's broken the bow in half and thrown it in the corner. We're not going to get any water if she doesn't do this. I need you to do this. And it fell on my shoulders, because I'm just not going to sit there and cry about it. And I know how to do fire plow because I was a big brute. I was 265 strong when I went in there. I'm like, that's how I do primitive fire. I really just rub 2 sticks together. And that's what we did to get fire, So it's a lot to inspire people. And they call me the Godfather of Naked Afraid for that very reason, because 12 years ago, we got it right. And I'm always ready to go back out, even though people say, hey, you're retired, right? I'm never retired. They've asked me back 6 times since then, but it just didn't work out. The cards just didn't line up for whether it was on them or me. So,
Well, the interesting thing about being out in the wild, like even as hard as it may be at times, there is something liberating about being out there. Because like I talked about before we hit record here, I'm an archaeologist, and I look at our ancient ancestors. That's where they evolved. And the reason why you
yeah,
and I are having this talk right now, EJ, is because our primitive ancestors were the best survivors. They were the best warriors, and they
yep,
actually earned the right to carry on their lineage, when everything around them wanted them dead, right?
yeah,
And I feel like that's probably the disconnect that we see in this
yeah,
modern day is we're just not getting out in the wild enough. One of the terms I kind of use is that humans are becoming way too artificial in this modern day. We got artificial light, artificial
yeah,
foods, artificial, worlds, digital worlds, and we're not really like. And is it any wonder why our obesity rates are so high?
yeah,
Testosterone levels in men are declining. Mental health is
yep.
on the decline. We're not getting out in the wild enough.
You're exactly right. And I encourage people to take this little phone thing here and leave it in the glove box for a weekend and unplug for 72 hours and watch how your body resets. I mean, you're exactly right. We get out there, you get very primal, you get very primitive, and you connect with nature at a level in the universe in a way spiritually that no people don't understand. We're little radars out here. And I encourage people every day. I go walk barefoot most of the time now. I'm a soldier that loved my boots, but once I did Naked Afraid, I learned that Cody Lundeen from Doodle Survival was right walking around barefoot. So I walk around at least 20 minutes out of my day all the time, and I ground into the earth, and I touch the earth. It resets my midichlorian. It gets your time clock gets reset, man. When I go out on those long ones for 40 plus days, it's amazing what nature will do to you. Nature heals in ways that nobody can understand. And when you get so primal that you got to make everything in your life to survive on, to work with your tools, it's amazing. To go back and be 10,000 years ago, this Naked Afraid challenge is that and alone are the two realest survival challenges out there that you're really doing this stuff. And yes, it is in a more safe and not, I don't want to call it controlled, but it's a live experiment where you have some safety measures in that if you get so far in trouble, they can come in and step in, but they know the people they're dealing with. So somebody's going to, like, it's not EJ Snyder, they're probably going to step in a lot sooner on some of those folks than me because they understand my level of skill set. And when I go out and do this, I do this shit for real. I don't play around. I cast for Naked Afraid. I work with casting from season 3 to season 16. I don't play with posers. I won't let a poser out there. They came at me with their woke agenda about, trying to get this person out there or that person. I said, I got no problem putting them out there as long as they can do it. I owe it to them, I owe it to their partner, and I owe it to the crew. That if they go out there and don't know what they're doing and they're posers because they're taking pretty selfies on Instagram, that's not fair to anybody because that's going to put everybody in trouble and it's no good. And I wouldn't play it and they knew it. And they were like, how do we get this person on there? And I'm like, well, they're going to have to get rid of EJ Snyder because he ain't going to let them on unless they got it down. And I didn't get it right all the time, but I'd say 98.5% of the time I got it right. I had a few get by me. There's a few mulligans out there. It's okay. And it was very, very slick of them to get by me, but what I saw in front of me, what I was getting, I thought they did have it. And then sometimes some people mentally don't understand how they're going to exactly react when they get in that situation. But you can just tell by a person. They say, "Oh, they're survival instructors. Oh, they're survivalists." There's a big difference. You just go to their social media pages, go to their Instagram, their Facebook, and their YouTube, and look at what they're posting. And if they're posting selfies and they're not posting that they're really doing it, there's a big difference. And then there's going into Naked Afraid Challenge. That's a whole nother animal. Because you can be the best survival instructor in the world. We've had several tap out that were good survival instructors and know their stuff. They didn't have it up here. And they got found out. And they haven't been testing themselves. They've been instructing people but they forget about themselves like I do all the time. I go out by myself all the time and test my skills and test myself, make sure I know that I'm still good and I'm ready to go. There's a big difference also of taking people outside. All this rewilding stuff, it's great. It's wonderful. And I'm not knocking it. But don't confuse yourself with being an actual survivalist and you taking people to archery classes or doing this. I'm glad you're doing that. It helps people get outside. That's what survival mastery, that's what we're trying to do is help people get outside. We don't want to make survival, we don't want to make the next Bear Grylls. We want to teach you some life-saving skills, get you interested in getting outside. This is an online learning platform, www.survivalmastery.co. Use EJ2025, get yourself a discount. But we're trying to bring a tribe and a community like you talked about earlier. Because I got a problem with people that, I'm doing this. You're a poser. You're not really doing it. Go on and talk all day long and do your little social media posts about survival skills you read in one of these books here. And you're regurgitating information. It doesn't make you an expert. Don't even think that way. And you're going out there and you take on a survival challenge like Naked Afraid. And you're like, oh, I'm the real deal. I've been on 6 challenges. Well, you've been on 6 challenges. You got 136 days. 3 of my longest challenges got more than 136 days than your 6-0 record. My 6-0 record's 206 days. And you're out there counting this. Well, I asked the question of somebody like that, why haven't you done a longer challenge, 40 days, 60 days, until money was on the line? Now there's a cash prize. Now you want to go out for a long days? To me, you're not out there for the adventure and the challenge. I told them I'd do it for free. Although you get paid a stipend. The last year, they were complaining about my rate being, because I'm one of the higher paid ones in that show. I said, listen, I'll do it for free. Get my money and pay 3 camera guys. I don't care. I just want to get back out there. That's like my level of commitment to this challenge, and what I know I'm going to get out of it is so much more than money. And so, posers can stay home, in my opinion.
Now, actually going into these challenges, what does preparation look like? I'm kind of coming from this question with personal experience. A few years ago, I did a through hike across the entire state of Michigan. I did a 1,200-mile through hike. And before that, I kind of like deliberately put on a lot of weight. Like I was eating a lot because I knew I was going to probably lose a lot just with, I was hiking probably anywhere from like 10 to even up to 20 miles a day. So I was going to burn a lot of calories. Did you maybe do a similar approach before you go out on one of these challenges?
I do. There's 2 theories on weight gain. We'll start with that. Me, I put on weight. I pack it on because I'll lose 2 pounds a day eating like you're in super ketosis out there. I used to be a bodybuilder. So my brain and my body thinks I'm trying to get ready for a competition. So it's time to lean out. I've lost on 121-day challenge because I was eating more like a pescatarian. I ate mostly vegetables, stinging nettle. I ate a lot of fruit, wild fruit, and walnuts. I had 1 trout, 3 crawfish, and a handful of minnows. So I lost 52 pounds on that 21-day challenge in Bulgaria.
Whoa.
On my 60-day challenge in the swamps, I lost 90 pounds. I lost 73 pounds my first 40-day challenge. The next 43-day challenge I went out, I lost 75 pounds. So my body just, thinks I'm ketosing. Other people, they start ketosing early. They want to shrink their stomachs. A lot of skinnier people do that because it works for them. And so I don't knock either strategy. I'm in the camp of put weight on. That way you can take the blow the first week to 10 days till you can find your fishing and your hunting areas and get out there trapping and actively hunting. And then I walk barefoot because I walk barefoot all the time. So I'm always prepared. I enjoy it for grounding, as I've said earlier, but I prep my feet. The rest of it, I'm doing all the time anyway. The survival skills, I'm not being foolish. I definitely go out and dust off maybe some skills I haven't done in a while. And then I like to shoot my bow. I shoot that for therapy like every other day. and my slingshot. So I'm always doing that stuff anyway. And I tell people about survival. If you can pick out 5 things in the core 4 and get really, really good at them, if you're just a novice survivalist and you lean your hat on that, figure out 5 typical shelters that work for you. Lean-to, A-frame, because a lean-to is just a double, an A-frame is just a double lean-to, a platform shelter, a debris hut, and maybe a 5th one of some sort. Get on a platform, whatever. There you got 5 shelters. Figure out 5 weapons, primitive weapons that work for you, so you can get food. Well, fishing kit. Learn some simple snare traps. Figure out 5 ways to purify water, and then figure out maybe 5 edible plants in the area you're going to. You know, if you can do those things and just master the basics well, they'll serve you forever. I mean, we got some survivalists on Naked Afraid. You never see them do anything else than a lean-to. They only start fire this way. They only do these few traps. They suffer well. They're mentally strong, but the skills that they rely on, man, they are top notch on them. And so that'll get you through the day. And a little, we talked about something earlier, and you mentioned it about getting soft, going back to your architectural ancient society. We as a society are the new political class, or at least the last one. We won't mention any joke Biden or Kamala Harris administration. We'll just keep it fair. They want beta males. They don't want a Spartan society where you're taking your boys and you're training them from 3 to 4 years old on how to be warriors and fight, how to be tough. You don't do the society any favors by going soft on them and coddling them. Hard times don't last, but hard men and hard women will. A hard person is going to go way further than somebody that's tied up in their, distracted in their cell phones. And the elites that run the world want us distracted. They want us paying attention to all this stuff and not building a warrior class, because what can a warrior class do? Rebel. They can fight back and they can make them pay. And they don't want none of that. So as long as there's some garden hose drinking, mud pie eating, handlebar flipping sons of bitches like me out there, you're going to be okay. But it's up to us. And I think, and I'm guilty of it too. I made sure my kids didn't want for nothing, because I grew up poor. I grew up wanting everything. And I didn't want them to go through that, but I did stay hard on them, but a lot of people in my generation, we lived that way. And I think we're guilty a little bit of coddling. So God bless the millennials. I think we got a problem. The Gen Zers, there's some hope for them. There's honestly some hope for them. And they're starting to rise up. They slow out the gate. But man, are they starting to they're really getting up there now. And they're really giving me hope for what's the future. I'd say 25% of the millennials that we have are the same way as the Gen Zers. The Gen Zers are wanting to be minimalist. We're the reason we started Survival Mastery, because of them and our study. They want to go learn online before they go outside. And some millennials and a lot of urbanites, our next generation, which is Gen Alpha, we really got to pay attention to that generation. And I'm hoping that'll all bleed over, that every now and again you get a mulligan for a generation, we hope, and they don't fuck it up too bad when they get in charge. But I think they're kind of lazy enough that we're going to carry it over till the Gen Zers can catch up and help run through it, and hopefully that small 20 to 25 to 30% of those millennials will be enough to carry us through that gap. I saw it in the military back in the 90s when we had a downsizing of the military. We had a leadership gap there for a short while. It was tough to get through.
Well, I appreciate this conversation, EJ, because I was actually taking a deep dive, and this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on here, is the rise and fall of empires. Now, there's the saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly does rhyme. And if you look at every great empire in the past, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire,
Ottomans.
Genghis
Oh,
Khan, the Ottoman Empire, they all experienced like the same kind of trend. They had a rise that took a while, lots of bloodshed, lots of fighting, lots of expanding, lots of conquering, and then they had an apex where they experienced a great amount of like prosperity. But then that
yep.
prosperity eventually led to a fall because men got complacent, they lost their martial edge. They were getting involved with like all kinds of depravity and hedonism, and then eventually they were ripe for the taking as a result of their getting to their weakened state. And some might argue that like the U.S. is kind of sort of in that same timeline because a lot of these empires fell over the course of a few centuries. Here we are about 250 years in, and now it seems like we have like the post 9/11 generation of veterans is the smallest generation of veterans we ever had, and so it's like, where are our warriors, and where are those who are going to step up?
The what they call it, the greatest generation, they're dying off. God bless those World War II. And people start saying, well, you can't put that here, put that here. Listen, if a World War II, if they want to put the World War II memorial in the Rose Garden at the White House, they should, because they're the reason we don't have crooked crosses and flying meatballs flying over all of our states. So you're right about that. We're a baby nation in terms of the greatest nations that ever were on this earth. We're also a nation that came in a time where we are, I call it the fast forward generation, the fast food generation, because we want it now. Everything's fast. Everything's hyper speed now. So we're going to rise faster and we're going to fall faster. And if we don't fix our problems, and a lot of people are having problems with, for instance, this Doge, finding all the waste, fraud, and abuse. And Elon Musk put it very plainly. If we don't do this now, we're done as a nation. We're never going to make it. We're going to be so bankrupt, and people are going to hold it over our heads that they're going to control us just by virtue of money. And I'm glad they're finding all that stuff. People that have been stealing, all these corrupt politicians, these career politicians on both sides, they need to be shackled. If they were doing it, they need to be brought back. Their assets need to be seized and put back into our coffers. And it's not a Gestapo mentality. It's fixing things that have been broken for so long. If you want to make an omelet, you got to break a bunch of eggs. But these last bunch of presidents didn't have the backbone to do it. George Bush, some could argue he wasn't intelligent enough to figure it out. Obama, the greatest disappointment ever for a president, because he was the one guy that probably could have reunited our country on a level that's never been seen before. And I'm not saying, and I'm no Obama fan, but, he was very popular. He was a great speaker. And if he would have led on his own and not listened to those behind him, he'd have been a great president for us. And then Sleepy Joe Biden, we all know where that was. He wasn't in charge. It's whoever was behind the strings. And Clinton, Clinton, at least he was the last, I think, of a lot of middle of the road Democrats that were still, in the middle of the road, which is where we really need to be. We really need to get ourselves back in the middle, and none of this way right, way left stuff. And I'm an independent, always have been. I'm very socially liberal, very fiscally conservative, more of a libertarian, I guess, than anything else. I believe people have the right to live their lives any way they want. Just don't tell me I got to agree with the way you're going to live your life. Just go live it and leave me alone. I don't need to know about who you're banging behind doors. You go do what you want to do. You have a nice life. God bless you. I know, because I have friends of all walks of life, all races, all backgrounds, all sexual orientations. I love them all equally. It's not for me to judge. That's not my place. I'm just here on this earth trying to be a better human and help others. They can deal with their stuff in the afterworld, however that works out. And who knows to say if we're right or not. If I have to come back to this earth, I hope I come back as a pit bull, because my pit bull has the best life. He sleeps whenever he wants. He runs around happy, and he lives the best life. He gets fed on time, and he gets belly rubs, and I don't know how he's so tired all the time. But boy, that's a sleeping dog, man. So I hope they'll come back as a pit bull. But all kidding aside, our society and people can not like the man in charge that's in charge right now, but he has 0 F's to give. He's learned from his last one, and I'm glad he had a spacer between his terms, because he brought a team in that he'd been planning for 4 years, and they don't understand. That guy's a chess player. He don't play to lose. He's a chess player, and that tells you a lot about a person. Anyone that's ever played the game of chess, you're always thinking 3, 4 moves ahead of the next guy, 5 if you're a genius, and you're always ahead. And so he's had his chessboard set, his battle plan ready to go, and that's why it seems like it's going at hyperspeed and people can't keep up. But it needs to, because if we don't fix it, we're lost. We have to get these illegals out of this country tomorrow. They don't have no due process. They have, yes, they have human rights. They don't have American constitutional rights. They came here illegal. They weren't supposed to be here anyway. They're criminals by that very statement. If they had kids while they were here illegally. So those kids, I believe in this birthright thing. They shouldn't get the right to be a citizen just because they're birthed here. They should have been here. They should have been birthed here because their parents should have not been here. So the Dreamers, that's a different situation. I have a different feeling on that myself personally. They've been here a long time. There's got to be that's got to be treated differently. Everything's got to be treated based on case by case. But the 21 plus million, I think it's more like 31 million. All them SOBs, the military needs to be involved. It's a security issue, and they need to be carted off and sent back. Just march them to the border. You walk here through the desert. See ya. Bleed in my heart. Bye. I'm not inhuman, but you shouldn't have been here. You've been taking up my resources, my tax dollars. I got people in North Carolina when that Hurricane Helene hit, when I was out there helping them, that got a $750 loan from FEMA. Hey, put this in your back pocket, pal. And they're putting these immigrants, illegal aliens, in hotels in New York that are 5-star hotels, costing them $500 a night, giving them $5,000 cash on an EBD card, brand new vehicle, and a phone. And I can't get my people out of a tent in North Carolina in the winter? Unbelievable. And we'll never know the true number of how many people really died of that thing, because the damn Biden administration covered all that shit up. And you're right, I'm damn pissed about it.
Well, of course, our hope is that things will get better, but of course, we also need to be prepared for the worst. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So, with that, yes, and I'm glad that you show this now, because that's kind of what I want to talk about, is a little bit of preparedness. When things get a little bit spicy, as we say in the military, and of course,
right.
And we won't be able to cover a whole lot. Of course, I'll just encourage our listeners and our viewers to go check you out at Survival Mastery to learn more. But if you had to give, let's say, a top three things that, if our listeners and viewers are hearing this conversation and they recognize they have holes in their game, their preparedness game, what do you think that they should focus on first?
Well, my book, The Emergency Home Preparedness, covers some stuff in there, and you can get it at Amazon. Go to any of my social medias where I talk about it. There's a link in there. Or you can go to ejsnyder.com, order a signed copy. And the other part of it is about PACE planning. PACE is an acronym that stands for Primary, Alternate, Contingency, and Emergency. You need to have a 4-tier plan on every aspect of everything you're doing in preparedness. For instance, you need to figure out, how am I getting home? You need to have a get home bag, meaning your everyday carry, your EDC. What's in your pocket? What's in your backpack? Because if you're at the mall, you're at school, you're at work, how are you getting to your car? When riots break out, you can't get on the road to go anywhere. Do you know how to go on foot? How many days is it going to take for you to get to your house? When you get to your home's your castle. We've learned during the pandemic, 90% of the country is bugging in. They're staying home. 10% is bugging out. Half of that 10%, they're just bugging out to go bug in somewhere else. Then there's the other half that's like me, that can go out to the woods and live off the land. So, with that being said, just like in a wilderness survival situation, you got to cover your core 4 right out the gate with some PACE, meaning shelter, water, fire, and food. And so, for instance, Food is one of the number one resources that when the world flips, you know, you're not going to go to the grocery store and get anything off the shelf. That stuff's going to be gone fast. So what is it you have on your shelf? You have survival foods, canned foods, perishables, non-perishables. How many bags of rice have you saved up? And people say, well, that's too crazy. You can budget yourself, whether you have a high budget, a medium budget, or a low budget. Every time you go to the grocery store, you go to the canned food section, they're always having sales on canned food. Pick up 10 extra cans of beans when you're there. Pick up 10 extra portions of ramen. And that's the food that you put in a tote, that you tape off, you vacuum seal in bags and put it in the tote, and then tape off the bag and write a date on it so you know the expiration of everything that's in that container. And start that way. Water. You have fresh water. When you get done using a milk jug, clean it out, fill it up with water. Start stockpiling water on your shelf. At a minimum, you need 1 gallon a day, and that's on the low end. More like 2 gallons a day for every person. And when I tell them to stockpile water and food in your house, figure out every member in your household, and I always say +2, because you never know who's going to show up at your door, banging on your door, looking for shelter, family members or friends. And that way, even if you don't use it, you'll always have 2 extra portions that can go further. When you have to start rationing, go with 3 meals a day. If you only have enough for 6 months, go down to 2 meals a day until the rations fall out. Know how to supplement your food through fishing and hunting. But also, something that a lot of people fail, especially in urban areas, is their community. We have these great things called HOH, right? These HOAs, pain in the ass. Hey, cut your grass, do this, do that. Make yourselves useful, HOAs. Organize your community. Write down every family, have a roster, an Excel spreadsheet of every family, where they live at, and what's everybody's skill set. There's people that live in a cul-de-sac with, like, let's say 6 houses. They don't know 2 doors down from them there's a doctor. 3 doors down there's a mechanic. If you would just have a cul-de-sac cookout, learn everybody, what they do, get to know your neighbors, because in time of crisis, just like we found out with Hurricane Helene, that's who you lean on. The time to meet your neighbors, not when the tree went through your roof. It's, months ahead. Planning your community, your tribe, then covering your core 4, your shelter. How do you heat it? What's your roof situation? If the hole goes in your roof, you have a tarp to throw over it to take care of that situation until you can fix it. How do you have food? How are you preparing? Is it camp meals? Is it camp stoves? Do you have several extra propanes in a barbecue grill? Do you have enough firewood to start a regular fire to cook food over an open flame? Maybe even to stay warm. What heating sources do you have? Do you have enough blankets, enough coats for the winter? How are you staying cool when it gets hot? What water sources do you have? A lot of people, you can have a pool in your backyard. There's a water that purifies the water that you can, it's not a chemical, it's natural. Now your pool is now a water source. Or drain your pool out, fill it up with just regular water, then just purify it later. You could have 1,000 gallons of water right in your backyard just on your pool. I tell people when hurricanes are coming, fill up your bathtubs with all your water. Fill up every pot, pan or pot in your house so you have plenty of water, even if it's just for brushing your teeth a little bit or cooking. Have that extra water. And we already talked about the food situation. Now, lastly, if you're bugging into your castle, just like my book talks about, it covers all the basics. There's also a video on EJSnyder.com that we created, is why this book came about, because people wanted a hard copy. But, you got to have a way to get out. When the bad guys come banging on your door, what's your plan? What's in your go bag to get out of there? Or your bug out bag, if that's what you want to call it. And you got to cover your basics again. Where are you going? Everyone needs to know where that is, and just like you plan for a fire in your house, how to escape, where to meet. Well, if the bad guys come knocking on your door, they're not there to ask for a cup of sugar. And a lot of these people say, well, I've trained my kid at the range to shoot. Well, The one thing you ain't trained them on, and no way they'll ever know, just like all of us soldiers that have been in war know about, when you see a living human being at the other end of that sight picture of your rifle or your pistol, and you got to pull that trigger, that's a life-altering, nerve-ending event. And you better not be relying on your 8 and 12-year-old to keep you safe. If that's your plan, you got holes in your plan. So, you got to think about those things because, I don't ever want to take a life unless it's necessary. But when bad people come banging on your door, and they will come, they ain't there to ask for sugar. Remember that.
Now, I believe the wording you used was when the world falls apart, or maybe I'm paraphrasing that. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes, what do you think that moment would look like? Is there like one singular like black swan event that could potentially like turn this over that we should maybe like be on the lookout for? Or do you think it's going to be more of like the continual like decline as we've kind of talked about earlier with the fall of empires?
Well, they always say, and I've always said this about our country, we won't fall by an invasion. We'll fall from within. They'll have to infiltrate us with inside to ever do an invasion because there's not enough movement capability to move enough forces on the ground to get here to subdue 380 million people of an armed populace, and with a veteran population of active and retired of somewhere probably around 3 million or so, plus throw in law enforcement and good old rednecks. You got a fight on your hands, and you're not going to. We'll be with our intelligence. We'll see that coming. It's falling from within that scares me the most. I think we have infiltrators here already. They were allowed to come through the border, and they can cause us some havoc. I think the world's going to fall, or our country will fall, either from that kind of a scenario, a great natural disaster that we can't recover from, major earthquake, super volcano, something like that. People talk about EMPs all the time. I'm not going to say it couldn't happen as a natural EMP, but you better believe the enemy is definitely looking at our power grid and all of our infrastructure. We have a lot of weak points. We haven't upgraded it in a long time. And we should have armed guards on every power station in our country, just like we do on our nuclear sites, because if they cut our grid off, people aren't going to know how to act in the dark. And that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. I don't think we'll ever get to a civil war again, but, that's just my opinion. I know there's a lot of folks that are experts that talk about that could possibly be something that happens. I just don't think the way our society has gotten soft, that people have the gonads or the spine to want to shed blood for a cause. Antifa, all these other little weasels out there that talk of big game, they're real tough until you punch them in the nose and bloody their nose. Then they're not so tough no more. So they don't have the backbone to start nothing. And, when you got stuff like that going on, it's just not going to work out. So I just don't think our society, there's enough people with the willing to sacrifice like the Sons of Liberty did for a cause. I just don't think that is in anybody's backbone at this moment.
Yeah, well, like we've been talking about, let's hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. So as we kind of start winding down our conversation, EJ, like I said, we are barely scratching the surface on this topic and also with your story. So how can our listeners and viewers go connect with you out there on social media space? You got Survival Mastery, you got Freedom Pickles.
Survivalmastery.co. Yeah, survivalmastery.co. Join up today. It's a cost of one latte or 2 lattes. That's what you got to pay. It's a subscription base. If you use EJ 2025, you'll get a discount. But it's life-saving skills, and it's in courses. It's gamified, so you earn badges as you get through each piece of it. You can use those points at the store, whatever. So survivalmastery.co, EJSnyder.com. Again, EJSnyder.com, all things EJ. You can link up with me on my social medias there, at EJ Snyder 333 on X, Instagram, TikTok, Clapper, Over at Facebook, it's EJ Snyder, blue check, 219,000 followers. I got all this camouflage, war paint on my face with furs. So you know you're in the right place. And Survive with EJ on YouTube. And let me tell you something, folks. Freedom isn't free. There is a price for it. That's why I named my pickles Freedom Pickles. Honoring veterans, we give proceeds back to veterans. www.freedompickles.com. Go check us out. Our website's getting revamped. In about 2 weeks, we'll be able to start doing online orders again. Right now, you can find us around Fayetteville, North Carolina, in about 9 locations at mom and pop type farmers markets. IGA and Hitchcock's in North Florida, just north of Citra, Florida, or Ocala, rather. And pretty soon, we just went today to the Harris Teeter headquarters. We're probably going to be in all the Harris Teeters in 8 states come July. We're working on Publix, and we're working on Sprouts and Cracker Barrel. So, and maybe a PX or a commissary on a base near you. So Freedom Pickles, we support veterans. We're going to hire 50% veteran force of veterans in need. We're going to get them out of the streets, out of suicidal thoughts, and put them in an environment to can pickles in an organization that's set up much like the military, so that we're going to give them formation. They're going to go do PT, get a shower. That's on us. We'll pay you to PT. Then come give us 8 or 9 hours of work for the day. And then we're going to take care of you. We're going to let you enlist for 10 years. And at the end of that enlistment, you can re-enlist for another 10 years and retire with us on a great benefits package. Or you can start your own farm. I don't care if you want to grow corn, wheat, vegetables, raise horses, milk goats. I don't care. Raise bees, but we want to partner with you, set you up with your farm, and send you to the Veterans Farming Agricultural Program for 8 weeks. And we'll partner with you at 25%, but we'll get the land for you, get you set up with everything. That way we take back farming in this country, one veteran farm at a time, small family business, owned farms, and we take the fight to Bill Gates and Ted Turner and tell them we're not going to let them buy up all our farms to serve us insects and fake meat.
All right, right on. And I will get all those linked up in the show notes for this episode, or if we have viewers watching us on YouTube, it'll be down in the description below. They can go click away and find everything. All right, so EJ, I just have a few more standard questions before we call it a day here.
Let's do it.
And then one of those is, I always like to ask my guests to issue a challenge to our listeners, because we got to hear some great stories from you today. We got to get some great information from you today. But as I always say, stories, information, inspiration can only take our listeners so far. They actually have to go and follow up with action to go out and do amazing things in their lives.
So here, let's make the world a little better. Let's be the pebble that's thrown into the water and ripples in effect. And I'll share a story, a quick story. There was a veteran that pulled up to an ATM machine, and he saw this young man up there, and he was fumbling with his wallet and fumbling on the buttons. And next thing he knows, he's waiting his turn. The old veteran, the Vietnam veteran, got his hat on, and this kid comes very, very obviously disheveled, and he gets his money and he's shoving it in his pocket. And he's walking by, and the old man's been observing him, and he sees the young man. He says, "Hey, son, I just want to say, have a nice day. God bless you. I just want to tell you, thank you for," you could tell he was a soldier. He says, "Thank you for serving. And I appreciate you. And I want you to have a great day." And smiled at the kid. And the kid walked off. He said, "Thank you, sir." And he walked off. And the old man went up there to get his money. And the kid went back to his car, was counting it and everything. And looking at the little man, he was crying. The kid was crying. The old man gets his money out and turns around. And there's that kid looking at him. And he said, "Sir, I want to thank you. You see, I was getting money out of that machine. I was going to take all this money and go over there. And I was going to go to the gun shop down this road here and purchase a gun. And I planned on taking my life because I just didn't think I could handle it anymore."
Oh, shit.
And the old man kind of took back and all. He said, but I didn't do it because you actually made me feel like I mattered. And like there was probably something more out here for me. and I wanted to just say thank you and I appreciate you. And I want to give you this money to please either give it to your favorite charity or your church or whatever. And he's like, damn, son, I'll tell you what, why don't you come with me and let me buy you a meal? Let's chat. And, I'd be happy and honored for you to come, come with me and we'll go down to the VFW. And I'd like for you to make a donation to a cause we got going down there and meet some of the other folks. And he said, I would like that, sir. And they went. And the kid didn't do that, didn't take that, take up smoking a 9mm as an activity. And I say this to everyone out there, and it's not just with the military or that, but remember, the things you say and the actions you take in a total stranger's life may change their life or even save it. And when I was on Naked Afraid, I can't tell you how many messages I've received through social media, Instagram, like platform messaging, or emails of people that said I've saved their life. And my response back to them is, listen, I'm just a messenger. I'm doing what I'm asked to do. It's my calling by God. If it affected you in a certain way, God bless. You thank him. But I appreciate you sharing that with me, and I'm glad that you're still with us. Because so I challenge you to go out there and just smile at somebody. Say hello. Say have a great day. Buy somebody else behind you a meal or a coffee. It will make a world of difference. Be the pebble that makes the ripple. If we all do that, oh my God, we're going to have a tsunami.
Yeah, it's to be kind to someone involves very, very minimal effort. It is not hard to give someone a smile or to give someone a good morning or whatever. One thing I like to do, EJ, if I may weigh into this, is whenever I'm checking out at the grocery store, is I always address the cashier by his or her name. Like,
yes,
yeah, I'll
very
be like,
important.
I'll be like, hey, good afternoon. Whatever your name is, how's your day going today? And they look at me like very surprised, as if like no one else had thought to do that at all during the course of them working there. And
Right.
I think they just felt in that moment humanized for once, that like a customer did just see them as a means to an end. They saw them as an actual person.
I agree with you, Josh. That's a great habit to get into. I pride myself in trying to, one, pronounce people's names properly, but just to say their name. Like you said, they're not just a name tag or a person pushing buttons on the cash register, bringing you their coffee. If I'd always say this, I wish if I win the lottery or I become rich and I've got hundreds of millions of dollars, I always said I want to try and get rid of all that money within a year. Set myself up, set everybody else up I love. But I want to be known as the black coffee guy. I show up at a diner, I order a black coffee, talk to the server or whoever, get to know their story, and I'm going to write a check on how they inspired me with their story to change their life. But you're right. Mentioning somebody by their name as someone that has an unusual name is very important to that person, if anyone else. And so you create what they say, a human effect. As you said, there's a great company, Combat Flip Flops. They have a great T-shirt that says "Be a better human." And so that's what I challenge everyone to be: a better human. Just like you said, say somebody's name, tell them have a nice day, or just do a nice gesture for them. You see somebody on the side of the road in trouble, just ask them, "Hey, you got help coming or what?" That goes a long way for somebody.
Absolutely. So, all right, EJ. Well, I got a few more questions for you. We're going to get into
All
my
right.
final three. And these are three, I like to think that they're fun questions that
And
I
I'll
ask
do 'em
all my
quick.
guests. Okay. And yeah, we'll do these rapid fire since we're running out of time. So, first, the question is, what is your favorite place that you've been to so far?
In what terms? In as far as Naked Afraid or just in the world? Or
Just in the world in general. Where's your favorite place?
well, I gotta say Hawaii.
Mm.
Hawaii was very important to me. It was my last duty station. I don't know how I drew that card because every assignment I've been to was pain and agony. My kids grew up there. I always felt like came home, and I always felt I would take my last breath there. I don't know if I feel that same way now, but man, Hawaii is a magical place, and not just because of the Waikiki and all that stuff. It's everything else about that place. The ohana, the tribe, just the people, the spirit. I love Hawaii.
Right on. And next question. What is one thing on your bucket list that you have yet to do?
Oh, I don't have a bucket list, so that's the great thing.
Mm,
I have I have a life list. A life list never ends. A bucket list does. So there's amazing things on my list. There's so many things. I literally one thing I would want to do is get a bucket, a can of chuck full of nuts, and get up to the top of Mount Everest, just like that Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman movie. And I want to bury a chuck full of nuts in there with a surprise for somebody in that can. I ain't going to say what it is, uh, just to bring a smile to them because I love that. That movie really was so cool because it did talk about bucket listing. But I am on the camp that I'm going to live to 155 and I'm going to live life to the fullest. When I pass, I don't want people to say, dang, he looks good. I want them to say, damn, that dude looks rough. He rode life hard because life is here for living, not letting it pass you by. And I have lived a storybook life, and I got a lot of chapters left to write.
right on. Outstanding. And my last question, and this is a two-parter. What is your favorite animal, and have you seen this animal in the wild?
I have several favorite animals because I have a lot of spirit animals. The bald eagle is one of my favorite birds, but the wolf is my favorite animal. When people say be like a lion, I say be like a wolf. A wolf is loyal. They appreciate their family, their leaders. They understand community, tribe. They're great hunters. They're formidable fighters. The wolf is my spirit animal, and I have seen many wolves in the wild. In fact, I was stalked by 2 packs in my Bulgaria challenge, and that was not a fun place to be. And I would never, I didn't want to hurt them, but I guess if I had to defend myself, I would have had to do what I had to do. But yeah, I have a lot of affection for the wolf.
And let's not forget that wolves don't perform in the circus either.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Right on. All right, EJ. Well, that's it. That's all the questions that I have for you
Oh,
today. But
awesome.
before we call it a day here, let's just recap one more time where our listeners and viewers can go connect with you, where they can, find your books, your courses, your pickles. So what do you got for us?
EJSnyder.com for all things EJ. If you want to sign up or ask questions about survival training, I offer one-on-ones, small group, large groups. I also offer adventure packages like guiding. If you want to go backpacking, you want to just camp with me, whatever. I've got all kinds of fun stuff over there. If you want to learn about survival at a better level where it's vetted with vetted instructors, go to survivalmastery.co. And lastly, if you want to have the best tasting pickle on the planet, also if you use the Yucca app to check those UPC codes right there in terms of healthiness of pickles or any food, you'll get a 90 with Freedom Pickles. Naturally preserved, no chemicals, no GMOs, a natural, great tasting pickle with a 90. Nobody comes close, and we hand pack them with care. We love you folks out there. We want you to stay safe. Thanks for tuning in with us here. And again, check out ejstar.com. Connect with me on social media. I appreciate you, America.
All right. And like I said, I'll get all those linked up in the show notes for this episode. And again, if we got viewers watching us talk on YouTube, it'll be down in the description below. They can find everything there. All right. Well, EJ, I want to thank you very much for taking the time for joining me tonight. I know you're a busy man and, you have a lot going on right now and your calendar is full, but I really appreciate you fitting me in today and sharing your stories and insights with myself and the listeners. It's really been an honor.
Thank you. Thank you for all the plugs you allowed me to have. But in the big thing of folks, people, I just want you to be the best you can be. Be the best everyday Joe or Joan. And you got to do that. And you can start now. It's never too late to start working on your health, getting physical, and learning life-saving survival skills. You start now, just start somewhere. And it doesn't matter whether it's with me or somebody else on YouTube or Survival Mastery. Just get started. Remember, it's a big thing, survival. It's a huge task. Small bites, little bites, and you can accomplish anything. Just make a list, and start knocking it out. And don't get overwhelmed by it, because it can be daunting, but you got to start somewhere.
All right, outstanding. Thank you very much, EJ.
Thank you. Rock on.